Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This time, we're going back to cover the end of the invasion. It's Survivor Series 2001. Kyush, taking yourself back to 2001, were you ready for this storyline to end? Because I sure was.
Again, as embarrassing as it is to say now, I wasn't. I was loving this
You
storyline.
couldn't get enough?
I couldn't get enough. It was chaotic magic every single night. Everyone was turning. All these different things were happening. It was everything the chaotic 15-year-old in me wanted. And it was not good for me. It was like junk food, but I liked it.
I hated this so much. They had buried my beloved WCW. They ruined everything. They buried DDP. They made Booker T look like a joke. They made WCW look like a joke. I hated it, and I wanted it to end.
I can tell you now that what it is that I think I actually craved was the brand split. Because
that's the other thing is I was really excited for the roster split because by this point there was buzz that they were going to do it at like the Madison Square Garden Raw in January, that it was coming like imminently, and I was really excited for that.
Yeah, so I think I was just excited by the concept of that, and I would later be excited when they would actually do it. So that's, I think, why I was so riveted by this. And I'll be honest, by this point in this, I think I had forgotten that WCW ever existed because they haven't said the letters WCW in 3 months at this point.
Oh, it's just the Alliance.
The Alliance!
All right, we'll talk about Survivor Series 2001 in a minute, but first we have lots of current wrestling news to talk about. Like, we've had some slow weeks recently. This is not one of them. Let's start with a Money in the Bank preview. Let's just get into the picks here because I don't think there's a lot of big picture stuff to talk about here. This is not the most loaded card I've ever seen.
I agree.
Becky versus Lyra. The stipulations are if Becky loses, she can't challenge Lyra again. If Lyra wins, she has to raise Becky's arm and say she's the better woman. I'll take Becky. Heel off.
I'm going to take Lyra, and a shout out to Lyra for a pretty fantastic promo. Definitely the first of hers that I've ever seen on Raw. Pretty good.
The tag match, Cena and Logan Paul against Jay and Cody. I'll take the former tag team champions, Jay and Cody.
For a second, I was like, when were John Cena and Logan Paul tag team champions? God, I don't fucking know. Who cares? John Cena and Logan Paul, sure.
I cannot believe they're using one of Cena's remaining pay-per-view matches on this trash.
How you could use the sixth last match of John Cena's career and make me care literally nothing about it is unbelievable.
This is just WWE brain. We got to advance the story instead of doing Cena versus AJ or Cena versus Punk or something that would actually be cool. That would be too out of left field.
Everything has to be a big brain story. We can't just do the Inoki retirement tour where he just wrestles all the people he respected along the way.
No, everybody's got Marvel brain now. It's the reason this last Mission Impossible movie sucked.
Yeah. And that's coming from Steve. I don't know that I knew any bigger fan of the Mission Impossible movies.
I love those movies so much. I even like Mission Impossible 2 because John Woo movies are awesome. I hated this last one. Hated it.
Sorry, guys.
Women's Money in the Bank. I'll take Naomi, who may actually get fired next week. Feaster fired Naomi.
I gotta say, this might be the first Money in the Bank I've ever seen.
The women's one is way more interesting.
Yeah. Literally anyone could win this match. I have no fucking idea which direction they're going. None. I mean, they're all credible enough, I guess. I'll say Roxanne Perez because I think it would go well with her character to have this Money in the Bank. It would help her grow.
That'd be fun. I could see that.
So, I mean, I'll say that. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but I hope so.
Men's Money in the Bank. I'll take Seth. But if I had a second pick, it would be El Gran Luchador.
Are you sure you don't want to pick El Gran Luchador?
I kind of do. I'll take El Gran Luchador if I get that right, I win the week.
Deal. Straight up.
That's my Money in the Bank cash in.
And I'll take Seth because thank God, because I wasn't picking any of these other scrubs. Andrade's not winning this shit. Solo Sikoa's not winning.
is miserable. Why couldn't they just have Punk in this thing?
Punk can't do a fucking ladder match. Are you out of your
You're
mind?
Right. Yeah, you're right. Fair point. Oh man. And all my trivia stuff. What's the longest match? I'll say the men's Money in the Bank.
I'll say the women's Money in the Bank.
Shortest match, I'll say Becky versus Lyra.
I'll say the tag match.
Opener, I'll say the women's Money in the Bank.
I'll say the tag match.
Yeah, I can see that. Main event, I'll say the men's Money in the Bank.
I think they think it's Lyra versus Becky.
Oh, wow. That would be out of left field.
I'm going to say it's that.
That would be pretty wild if that main evented over a John Cena and Cody Rhodes match and 2 ladder matches.
I know, but like, hey man, Triple H loves him some Lyra Valkyria.
And the length of the main event, I'll say 29 minutes. This will be our tiebreaker, although I don't think we can conceivably tie here. We have literally not made the same pick on any of these.
But also, so we're picking different main events. So that's also going to be kind of weird, right? So should we pick the same match and try to pick the time on it?
Okay, length of the men's Money in the Bank.
Okay, we can do that. You said 29 minutes?
Yeah.
31, baby.
You always go over my pick, and you always seem to be right.
It's never less than 30, Steve. It's never been less than 30.
I think I'm projecting what I want onto what I think is going to happen.
I think you are too.
All right, story number 2, WWE releases. Actually, first, any thoughts on the Worlds Collide show? I'll definitely watch some of this just because I'm curious how it goes.
I am curious as to how it's going to go. I do not know if I will go so far as to watch it because it's an atrocity. It's like if you invaded a country and then did a circus there.
A terrible invasion? We've never seen that before.
Yeah, but this time it's a financial invasion into an entire subculture.
Colonialism.
Yeah, this is colonialism. Thank you for landing on the term I was looking for. This is colonialism at its depressing worst.
Oh,
but I will look.
At least they got the belt off Del Rio. That's good.
Yeah, though I don't think they're going to release him. I think he's still going to be there.
He won't be. I don't think he'll be allowed to work with any of the WWE talent, but I think he'll still work in AAA.
I'm interested by the rumor that Savio Vega might be installed as a key guy here, which is interesting because
Did he ever work in AAA?
No, he worked in UW.
Do they know he's Puerto Rican and not Mexican?
At least he speaks Spanish. He worked in UWA, the company that existed before it became CMLL.
What?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it had been CMLL the whole time for the whole 100 years.
UWA was originally the one big promotion, then it split up and
because I always thought of CMLL as the world's oldest wrestling promotion.
It is sort of.
It is in the WCW, Jim Crockett, etc. sense. Yeah, it's a successor.
So he wrestled in the 80s in Mexico and has not been back.
I'm just hearing that for the first time.
Yeah.
All right. Story number 3, WWE releases. R-Truth and Carlito are both going to have their contracts expire. And Valhalla, or whatever her name was. We still have not determined her whereabouts on January 6th, have we?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to cry a lot of tears for that one. I'm just going to say that right up front.
People are very upset. There were R-Truth chants during the main event last night on Raw. People are not happy about this one. Maybe I'm just a heel and a member of the Authority, but I don't care when people get released, especially super old people like R-Truth and Carlito who should retire.
For me, there's a big difference between being released and letting your contract expire.
And that's a good point. Is Truth. I think they offered him essentially it was framed as they offered him a huge pay cut. I think they offered him a Legends deal because he shouldn't be wrestling anymore.
But on the other hand, for people like R-Truth, after all the service that man has given you.
Dude, they paid him millions of dollars.
I know. But this is also like, there are people who have a different function in your company than just being on screen wrestling in matches.
Yeah.
And based on the response that we've gotten from the people in the locker room, like, he was such a great culture guy. They should have just made him part of management.
Yeah. Like they could have transitioned to that. Carlito, best worker in wrestling. He got paid for 3 years because of one pop he got 3 years ago.
How stunning is that? He got the one pop in Puerto Rico, which was a borrowed pop from Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
And he kept a job for 3 fucking years.
Probably got paid over $1 million in those 3 years.
Never did a goddamn thing. Just stood in the background and said nonsense.
And people joked that the PS5 was going to be gone from the Judgment Day clubhouse. It was. Carlito took his PS5 and went home.
That is so fucking funny.
There's probably more of these coming. Meltzer says they're going to try to get some of their older and like stale talent off the roster to cut costs. Like a lot of guys come to mind when I think of Miz, Sheamus, New Day, Viking Raiders. There's a lot of acts that are just, they've been on TV too long. It is not normal. It is not the way things are supposed to work, that people are supposed to have 15-year runs with the same company. I'm not supposed to be subjected to the same wrestlers for 15 years straight. That's not how wrestling ever used to work.
And maybe it would work as a better system if occasionally they would just take these people off TV for a year to freshen them up. But they
loan them out now that they have all these partner organizations they work with.
Yeah, but since we're not doing that and we're just going straight, then if some of these people are going to have to be let go. And if they get over somewhere else, you know what? Bring them back.
Yeah,
that's how.
At their advanced ages, that's unlikely. I mean, before we went on the air, you were going through the list of everybody they have over 42 on the roster, and it's a ton of people.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though, like, in my heart, it makes me so depressed to, like, say this shit out loud because, like, there's no fucking retirement plan for wrestlers. There's nothing to fall back on other than conventions and working the indies. There's nothing. And a company as big as WWE I know that they have Legends deals and that's sort of a pension plan, but like as far as I'm aware, R-Truth did not get that. If he did, great. If not, it sucks.
I can only be so sympathetic. These guys make so much money. Like, save your money, guys.
Spend it all on the road, Steve. This is an argument.
The road expenses are true. Like, whatever they're making, half of it's gone to tax. Probably more than half of it's gone to taxes and road expenses right away.
Again, AEW wrestlers have all of their travel expenses paid for by the company. That should be the standard.
That makes a big difference. I think WWE might be paying for the hotels now. I think. But
la-di-da with their $8 billion a year.
It's crazy that they still won't pay for these guys' rental cars.
Fucking scumbag organization.
All right. Speaking of scumbag organization, Johnny Ace and Janelle Grant have entered into I can't think of a term. I think it's not joint defense agreement, but Johnny Ace is now cooperating with Janelle Grant. So she is going to drop her lawsuit against him in exchange for his testimony. This is very bad news for Vince McMahon, as Laurinaitis will presumably be able to corroborate many of Janelle Grant's claims against Vince. He's in a lot of trouble here. I mean, like, look, it's money. He's got the money, but, like, I think she's going to clean him out now that she has Johnny Ace to collaborate.
Yeah, that's really what this is. That from the beginning of this case, Johnny Ace has switched sides like 3 times because he's just going to pick whichever side he thinks is going to win and result in less punishment for him because he's a scumbag and he is what he is. But the fact we had actually thought that this case was leaning towards Vince for quite a while now, only to hear this, which makes it clear that, like, Vince is in some fucking trouble.
I'll say I do not believe for a second that Johnny Ace is anywhere near resembling innocent in all this. I think he's completely full of shit when he claimed. This is what it comes down to. Okay, if Vince McMahon was like making him have sex with Janelle Grant, that's one situation. Coercive control is a thing. But then there's the alleged like one-on-one meetups where Vince wasn't there, and he could have been like, "Okay, I think this is messed up. Like, I'm not going to make you have sex with me. Like, I think Vince is out of control." That's not what happened, according to Janelle Grant.
Yes. I don't actually know like what context like his part of this is going to be. Maybe it'll just be like, yes, I did this. Yes, I deserve to be punished, but I'm going to help you take down this bigger thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is like Vince has. I mean, like John Laurinaitis has money, but he doesn't have Vince McMahon money. Like the scalp she wants is Vince McMahon. Like A, Vince can pay a lot more, and B, like she very much like wants her day in court to prove what Vince did to her.
Bless her so strongly for having like the guts and like the determination to actually see this shit through. And my God, she might win.
She's refusing to settle. Like she has to have gotten settlement offers from Vince.
Oh, I'm sure she has.
Millie, like if I was Vince can write a check of virtually any size to make this go away. The guy's got billions available to him.
And finally, someone in this wrestling business, someone in this diseased business is going to have to see their day in court and be called what they are. And I love it.
Yeah. We could make a list of other people this is bad news for. Triple H, Nick Khan, Brock Lesnar, like they all want this lawsuit resolved. Yeah.
It is funny that like the wind is coming out of the sails of the WWE boom period right when this might all hit the fan.
Yeah. This is not the cause of that. 99% of their fans don't care. Me included. I still watch this company. I won't claim to be innocent.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but we're literally covering it right now. Like it's nothing like to be a wrestling fan is to grapple with the reality that WWE is a scumbag organization.
We're going to talk about some really weird Vince McMahon segments when we talk about Survivor Series here.
Oh, God.
All right, let's turn the clock back to November 2001. It's time to end the invasion. So tonight we're going to unify most of the belts and do a 5-on-5 match where whichever McMahon's team wins, the other organization will fold. This came about because Vince and Linda were about to make out in the ring when Shane and Stephanie interrupted and insulted them, and Vince said he was tired of this alliance crap, and he was ready for it to end in a very meta moment.
So, literally, if they had just let their dad fuck in the middle of the ring, then it would have been fine.
Yeah, but they interrupted Vince when he was trying to score. This segment is weird.
Because, like, Vince also doesn't say in this segment, I want the alliance to go away. He makes it very clear that what he means is, I want this storyline to end.
Yes, this storyline is killing our ratings, and I need to end it. I need to inject a lethal dose of poison.
A lethal dose of poison.
So the big twist was on the October 29th Raw when they said someone from the WWF would join the alliance before the night was out, and the someone turned out to inexplicably be Kurt Angle.
What
the fuck?
The dumbest fucking twist, maybe in WWE history.
They rescue it by, like, I'm glad they revealed he was a double agent, because it was, like, if he had actually just sincerely joined the alliance, that would have been horrible.
But it's still stupid because why does the alliance trust him? Like, I don't.
Because they're idiots. It should have been Jericho. They were talking about it being Jericho, and it should have been Jericho. But I'm sure they decided that was too predictable.
Jericho's whole storyline is that it would be him.
He hates The Rock, and he feels like Vince has mistreated him. He's the WCW champion. It would make all the sense in the world for him to join the alliance. Let's talk about it being Undertaker, but that would have been stupid.
But, like, imagine it's Jericho, and the end of this match at the end is between him and The Rock, not Austin and The Rock.
Oh, that's
you want to
level
level up Jericho? Do that, but then The Rock still beats him.
Yeah, so turning Kurt was apparently a last-minute decision. They just felt like they needed a big surprise to pop the ratings, so they had someone join the alliance.
And it feels like a last-minute decision. It makes no sense at all, but it doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day. Nothing, literally, as we cover this thing month to month, and we talk about all these changes. I can't express to you how much is actually changing in the background that we don't even get a chance
There's
to talk
so much
about.
stuff we never even mention.
Like, when we get to the Alliance Battle Royal here, we're going to have to go through all these people one by one and explain what the fuck has
I
happened.
forgot half of what they're talking. They will make a reference. Oh, that guy was kicked out of the Alliance. Be like, oh, I don't remember that. Oh, that guy switched sides. Don't remember that.
Every single person in that Battle Royal has had a B storyline where something happened during this whole clusterfuck that we haven't even gotten a chance to talk about.
On the November 5th Raw, Jericho lost the WCW title back to The Rock.
What
that
a jabron.
As a sign of how much business had softened, they were in Long Island and only drew 7,000. I think 7,000 paid. I think they were probably at about 10 with freebies. But New York shows have been automatic sellouts since, I don't know, 97 at this point.
I can't wait until you get to the stats about what this show drew
alarming.
compared to the previous year. Oh my God.
This Raw drew a 3.95 rating. First time they'd fallen under 4 non-holiday since, I think, like the night after WrestleMania 14.
And I don't think they ever get back over 4, do they?
They do it. They have a few. They pop ratings a few times after this. They get the ratings going the next summer when Bischoff shows up, and they have all the crazy stuff going on next summer. But yeah, like they intermittently will pop up beyond 4. But yeah, the trend is down forever after this.
Sheesh.
On the way in here, Vince is teasing there's a mole in the Alliance, and he just outright says that it's Steve Austin.
So I kind of like this just because it makes sense that Vince would do that as like a mind game thing.
Pot.
Yeah. And he's even openly like, yeah, it's a mind game thing. But it still might be true.
But you can't trust him, can you? He's switched sides so many times. He's betrayed everyone.
And on the way into this show, they do this bizarre segment where, like, Vince McMahon does something. I can't even remember what. And then he starts, like, smiling at Austin, and Austin inexplicably starts smiling back.
I mean, Austin stuns him. And then as Vince, like, wakes up, he's smiling, and Austin smiles back at him.
It's like, well, why are you doing that? Like, why did you just do that, Stone Cold?
So on the November 12th Raw, Mick Foley, who, if you've forgotten, and it's easy to, is the WWF commissioner again. Been in that position for like not even a month. Came out and said he wouldn't be around much longer as commissioner, regardless of the outcome at Survivor Series, because he couldn't stand working for Vince. He said he was upset that they didn't use him the previous week in Long Island or the Meadowlands, which was, like, I think a real situation. He actually, they didn't have anything for him, and he was really upset about that. And he said they needed to unify all the titles because there were way too many of them, and nobody could even keep track of who the champions were.
Hey, Steve, I have a question. Is Mick Foley just cutting shoot promos
Yes.
on the way into this?
Well, they turned the real situation, his real feelings and the real situation into the storyline here.
Yeah, but like
this is his real feelings.
At WWE New York during the show, he's going to cut a promo that I think references the plane thing in Charlotte that happens in real life where he almost comes to blows with Vince, right?
Well, they shoot the segment with Vince the next night on the plane, which that was probably Mick's idea because it's a very unusual thing they did here, and it feels like one of Mick's kind of out of the box ideas.
Right.
Weird. Yeah, this is just like I remember watching this and just be like, it was just shocking at the time to have Mick on TV just being this real about how upset he was. And this is really the end of him. I don't think his relationship with Vince ever becomes what it previously had been after this.
No.
He was just, he didn't want to play, Mick didn't want to play ball at this point. Like, creative had lots of ideas for him to wrestle matches, and he didn't want to. They had lots of ideas for segments he didn't like, and I think the creative team didn't like him, and he didn't like them. So the split was the right idea here.
It's just so funny that to see him on camera being like, the commissionership is a fucking joke. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, fuck. Okay.
So I guess we should go over the teams. Team WWF, we've got The Rock, Chris Jericho, Undertaker, Kane, and The Big Show. Which of these people doesn't belong? It was supposed to be Vince in the 5th spot, but he got hurt training or something.
I love A, that it was ever going to be Vince, which is so fucking stupid. And B, the idea that like the Big Show is the guy, we haven't said his name this entire season. They just called him up to be like, well, you're big, stand over there.
There's no one else it could be, right?
They could have put Edge in there, right?
Yeah, they could have. But they could have.
I can't wait to talk about
that would have been good for him, actually. That would have been much better than this.
I mean, yeah.
Could have been Mick, but I'm sure Mick wouldn't have wanted to.
I mean, Rock, Jericho, Undertaker, Kane is a perfect team. Hey, by the way, let me just say this. Why can't it be 4 people?
Yeah. Why couldn't it have been a War Games match?
Oh, God.
You know what I was pulling for.
Why couldn't it have been a December to Dismember barbed wire War Games match?
Whatever it would have taken. I would have haggled with it. I would have been like, we don't have to do the 2 rings. It can be in Hell in a Cell. It can just be the one. Whatever we want to do to change the rules, but let's make this War Games. Come on.
Let's just put the words War Games up on the screen.
Neither of us really even like the War Games rules. I would have been fine with changing a bunch of the rules to War Games.
Hey, do you know what you get if you just have War Games in a Hell in a Cell, but you keep the same rules? Lethal Lockdown, baby.
Yeah.
That's all that is just Lethal Lockdown.
Team Alliance, Steve Austin, Angle, Booker T, RVD, and Shane McMahon. So this is how the WCW invasion ends, with one actual WCW guy on the team.
And he's easily the least important member of the team.
Absolute afterthought.
It's like they put him and RVD in here just to be like, well, we got to have some kind of representation from those guys, right?
Yeah. Heyman cut just an all-time promo on Vince on the SmackDown before this.
Yeah,
just raked him over the coals for how he had treated Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, how his jet was paid for with blood money, how he had his dad promised all the promoters around the country he wouldn't compete with them, and then Vince put them all out of business. That more than anyone else's ideas, he stole Heyman's ideas, stole his dreams, stole his glory. And he said he had turned Fat Taz into a fat, bald color commentator, and Taz got up and choked him out. That was awesome.
Yes. Everything about that segment was perfect, and everything about it also said that nobody has told Heyman definitively whether he'll have a job tomorrow or not. So he's just getting it all out there.
He was like, at one point, he's like, you flaunted your affairs in Playboy, your kids hate you. He was going there. I'm sure he got this all approved. You don't talk that shit unless Vince has signed off on it. I don't think Heyman's that crazy.
Here's the thing that we know about Vince. None of that fazed him one bit. Vince knows all the things that he's done, and Vince does not care if you put that shit on camera or not.
We're going to get Test versus Edge to unify the IC and US titles, the Hardys versus the Dudleys in a cage to unify the tag titles, and a planned Tajiri versus X-Pac unification match was canceled due to X-Pac being injured. As Mick said, no one seems to know where X-Pac is, and no one really seems to care.
God, Mick was just burying shit. Those words, literally end X-Pac's career. There is no coming back from that.
I should note, none of these people... Well, X-Pac was in WCW before, but I would not consider any of these WCW guys.
Yeah, I mean, Regal was there. I mean, Al Snow was in ECW.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm imagining I went into a coma before the invasion and I woke up for this and I'm like, okay, Christian versus Al Snow. That's WWF versus ECW, right? And you're like, Well, I mean, kind of, but not really.
Not quite.
Oh, Tajiri versus Regal? Is that a WCW versus ECW match? No, actually.
No, Steve, it's Alliance versus WWF.
Yeah.
If like you went into a coma the day the invasion started, and then you came back here and you're like, oh shit, ECW and WCW joined together.
If you ask me which team was which, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, which team is Edge on, Steve? Which team is Test on?
The Hardys, the Dudleys. I mean, if you clued me in about the ECW part, I would have figured out the Dudleys.
The women's match.
Some other notes. Attendance for October averaged under 7,000 fans, their lowest since December 1997. This is getting ugly. This is alarming.
So this show, like literally, like I think Meltzer said that they only sold like 8,000 tickets here.
It looks like they got to. Well, yeah, I think the shoot attendance was 10,000 and it was probably 8,000 paid.
Yeah. You had to give away 2,000 tickets to this shit. By the way, this arena holds like 19,000.
Unforgiven 98 in this building drew over 20,000 people.
Yeah. This is like, where Sting retired in AEW in front of like 20,000 fucking people.
With the big set they have here, you can probably only fit about 18,000, but like they couldn't even come close.
That's humiliating, guys.
Greensboro for the end of WCW. Incredible coincidence. This turned out to be in Greensboro.
I wonder if that's the whole reason why they even bothered doing it here. Is that Vince was like, well, we could just blow it off now. We're in Greensboro to mean something.
They booked these buildings so far in advance that this is just where Survivor Series was going to be.
Oh, that's what I mean. I think that's maybe been for Vince, just like, well, we're going to be in Greensboro. Why don't we just kill it? Why don't we kill WCW in front of their own fans? Fuck them.
Of course. And then we get, I don't have a term for this yet, but I'm starting to do like a bummer section before we get to the lightning round. Eddie Guerrero was arrested for DUI, which got him fired from the company. This turned out to be like the wake-up call he needed. He turns it around after this.
Yeah, this saves his life, obviously. Yeah. Like
not for long, unfortunately, but yeah, like without this, he was going to end up like dead in a ditch in the next year. He was lucky he survived this car. He was lucky he survived the car accident he had. I remember the bad car accident was in WCW, right? That was when he got like thrown through the windshield. He was lucky to survive that, but yeah, he was just spiraling at this point.
Yeah, his family had already left him at this point. He's already basically about to get fired. He gets fired anyway. Like, yeah, that's a bad time. He turns
this around so fast because, like, by February, he's on that first Ring of Honor show and he's got it, and they bring him back right after that.
Yeah, he literally goes to like a 12-step meeting, like right after that, and
he just I don't think he ever drank again.
Yeah, no, he got his shit together.
Yeah, it was remarkable. And Helen Hart passed away at the age of 77. Just part of the incredibly sad saga of the Hart family. Like, I think Brett has acknowledged that he was kind of estranged from her at the end just because of all the shit that was going on in the family at this point.
That poor family. What a horrifying like 5-year run they have.
And I think Diana Hart's book came out right around this time,
which did not help.
No, Jesus. All right. After that, are you ready for the end of the Invasion lightning round?
I sure am.
Austin beat Taz in a match that lasted only 41 seconds. I think were they trying to get Taz to quit? I think they were definitely trying to put him in his place. They were sick of his shit.
I don't think they wanted him to quit because I think they honestly wanted him as a commentator.
They wanted him to accept that he wasn't a tough guy badass anymore.
I just love that, like, but this is like a 3-month storyline that had been building, where like Taz is just in the background of every line,
like things.
Yeah, but you still got to beat Kurt Angle, and you haven't ever beaten him, so like he's probably gonna win.
Yeah, right. Scratch. What?
So I remember that was actually a pretty hot segment of television.
The company laid off 39 employees, including company president Stu Snyder. In one of the greatest burials I've ever heard, Jim Ross revealed on his podcast that Snyder was a huge racist who asked the office to make sure his limo drivers were white. The best thing about JR's podcast is how he will occasionally just bury somebody 6 feet under in the most casual way possible. To be like, oh, what do I know about Stu Snyder? Oh, yeah, he was a huge racist.
And not only because he's probably not the most forward-thinking person in the history of the world, but also I bet he knows some of the biggest racists of all time.
I mean, his mentor is Bill Watts. Hulk Hogan, who has been billed as the owner of the XWF, backed out at the last minute, citing concerns over insurance. This was probably because he had agreed to terms with the WWF at this point.
So this is the X. By the way, I think it's very funny that we were just talking about the biggest racist of all time, and then the next words out of your mouth were Hulk Hogan. But also, so this is the XWF that had like the porn stars and like all the violence in it?
No, that was XPW.
Oh, never mind. Okay, yep, different thing.
This thing lasted like 2 shows, I think.
Got it. Well, that must have sucked for them. They were like, "Oh hell, we got this going. We got a Hulk. This is gonna be great." Nope, sorry.
Austin and Rock had their infamous singing segment on the Go Home Raw for this show. This was very weird.
So there's an alternate reality where you just make the main event of this show Rock versus Austin, right? Like,
yeah.
They have not interacted in any way since WrestleMania. Like, the money is in Rock and Austin. So either don't have them touch here at all or have it be about them. But instead, they don't have them even talk about each other at all until this weird-ass segment where they sing together.
This was like the dark segment they would do around this time, right? Were you at a Raw where they did this?
Yeah, so what they would do is after the show would go off the air, like Austin would just start singing a song and then Rock would sing with him, and then they would pretend like they were going to do their finishers to each other for 15 minutes, and everybody loved it. So they just put it on TV. But in the context of the storyline, this is weird as shit.
World Wrestling All-Stars debuted in Australia with a show featuring Bret Hart as commissioner and Buff Bagwell, Jeff Jarrett, Road Dogg, Stevie Ray, and Conan, Nathan Jones, Crowbar, and Norman Smiley. The show included the commentary being broadcast over the PA for the live crowd. I think they managed to do about 2 or 3 of these things before they folded.
Was this WWWA or is that something else?
The WWA, World Wrestling All-Stars.
Okay, yeah, because I reviewed a couple of these shows, including the one that had Dennis Rodman on it, I believe.
I forgot Rodman was in this.
Yes, which is one of the most demented, insane shows I have ever experienced as a reviewer.
Vince Russo reportedly told people he was done with wrestling and opening a record store in Atlanta. How many times has Vince Russo said he's done with wrestling?
Yeah, so when does TNA open? That's 2002.
June 2002.
So by the end of that year, he's already back in wrestling, like booking for them.
Yeah.
So,
and even before that, he went back to the WWF briefly.
And then after that, he founds Ring of Glory, another weird thing that I reviewed that no one else has ever heard of.
Kanyon tore his ACL during a dark match against Randy Orton. Nobody better than Kanyon.
I mean, talk about ill-timed injuries. I'm not sure what he was going to be able to salvage out of this, but like getting injured during the invasion basically just meant that you were automatically getting fired after the invasion.
Oh man, there was a Raw where in the dark matches, they had Orton, Lesnar, and Cena, and Shelton, I think.
And I believe Ron Waterman was the other big broadcast.
Whoever that is.
Because I remember he was at the show that I went to, and I was like, who's the big guy? He looks like Scott Steiner.
The Rebellion pay-per-view in England featured Jericho versus Angle for the WCW title and Rock versus Austin for the WWF title. Have you seen this one? I don't think I have.
I've never seen any of these Britain-only pay-per-views.
Me neither. Never felt the need to watch any of these.
Yes, they're intentionally not driving any storylines forward, so they're just exhibition matches, basically.
And finally, the Hammer. A verbatim line from The Observer, quote, "By the way, The women in the Good DP vignette and bent over is named Jennifer Hume, and she's Stephanie's assistant.
This is where we are in the world, you guys.
Dave, please hire an editor.
And here we are, many, many years later, and he has not done so.
No, still hasn't. All right, before we get into the show, let's go outside the bubble where we talk about what else was going on in the world at this time. In the World Series, for my money, the greatest World Series of all time. The Diamondbacks jumped out to a 2-0 lead with 2 straight home wins on the Yankees. Game 3 saw George W. Bush throw his famous first pitch, and the Yankees win 2-1 to get on board in the series. In Game 4, the Diamondbacks led 3-1 entering the 9th inning, but Tino Martinez hit a home run to tie the game, and then in extra innings, Derek Jeter hit a walk-off home run to win the game. The clock ticked past midnight to make it November 1st, so this made Jeter Mr. November. Now the World Series goes into November every year because they've expanded the playoffs.
And they were so lucky that it did that so he could be Mr. November, because he was never going to be Mr. October. That was already taken. So, now he actually gets to be a thing.
Game 5, the Diamondbacks again blew a lead. They put Byung-Hyun Kim, their closer, who had pitched 3 innings the previous night, back in the game, and he gave up a home run to Scott Brocious in the 9th inning. Holy shit, I felt bad for this guy. He was just set up to fail here. And in the 12th inning, Alfonso Soriano drove in a run to win the game and give the Yankees a 3-2 lead going back to Arizona. But it wasn't over because the Diamondbacks won Game 6 15-2 to set up an epic Game 7. We had Roger Clemens on the mound for the Yankees, Curt Schilling for the Diamondbacks. Randy Johnson, who had started the previous night, pitched an inning of relief for Schilling. The Yankees were up 2-1 entering the 9th inning with Mariano Rivera.
I'm not even sure what happens to him after this. He might just be done.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember ever hearing from him again. I think this just wrecked his confidence. So Yankees are up 2-1 in the 9th inning.
True.
Mariano Rivera out to close things out. The Diamondbacks tied the game on a Tony Womack single. And then Luis Gonzalez drives in the game-winning run on a bloop single over Derek Jeter's head to win the series. Unbelievable. Best I've ever seen.
Yeah. Fuck.
In college football, number 2 Nebraska defeated number 3 Oklahoma 20-10 when Eric Crouch caught a touchdown pass on a trick play that probably clinched the Heisman for him. And on November 10th, Miami barely survived a tough challenge from Boston College. This is where Ed Reed rips the ball away from his own teammate to return an interception for a touchdown. Tops at the box office. Monsters, Inc. and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Also out, we had Shallow Hal with Jack Black, Spy Game with Brad Pitt and Robert Redford, Domestic Disturbance with John Travolta and Vince Vaughn, and The One with Jet Li. Honestly, out of all those movies, I probably like The One the most.
I saw The One 14 times in theaters. That was exactly the sweet spot for my movie watching at that particular point in time. When you were when were you first exposed to Harry Potter? Did you read that growing up, or the books?
I did read. I had read those books by that point. Yeah. I'd read the books. Tops on the pop charts: "Fallen" by Alicia Keys, "I'm Real" by Jennifer Lopez and Ja Rule, and "Family Affair" by Mary J. Blige.
This is fun to do when we cover seasons because we get to track how long these tracks make it on the top of the charts.
Roxana Perez and Julia Hart were born this month.
Fuck me.
Yeah, that was my reaction too.
Oh god, we're so old.
And Nintendo released the GameCube. I didn't own one of these, but some of my friends had it. Were you a big GameCube guy?
I love the GameCube. I love Fire Emblem. I loved WWE Day of Reckoning, which is
Ooh,
a
Day of
super underrated game.
Super Smash Brothers All Stars.
Oh yeah. For a while, I was doing the stupidest thing you could do, which would be like a game would come out for the GameCube, so I'd trade in my PS2 to get a GameCube. But like I'd only get $50 back from my PS2, so I was like paying an additional $100 every time instead of just buying all three.
This is the least efficient way you could possibly have done that.
And hey, the Xbox also came out this month on November 15th.
Yeah, they're the sponsor of this show.
Yeah.
All right. To get into the show, it's Sunday, November 18th, 2001. We're at the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina, the legendary home base of Jim Crockett Promotions, the host of many Starcades over the years. They draw an announced 13,142, 10,142. I don't know if that's the paid number or the real attendance, but $594,000 gate. Like 18,000 would have probably been a sellout with this setup. And at Unforgiven 98, they drew over 20,000 in this arena. Is how much they've fallen off.
Yeah, this is a joke. To their credit, the 8,000 people who actually paid to be here are hot for this show. It's
great
not a dead
crowd.
show. Yeah.
The show does 450,000 buys. I don't know how to evaluate that exactly. It's up 50,000 from the previous year for Austin versus Triple H. It is one of the best-selling Survivor Series pay-per-views of all time, I think.
I think it is. And look, I think people were interested to see what was going to happen. I don't think anybody thought that there was any chance the Alliance was going to win, but at least this is like sort of a climactic. This pay-per-view was a curiosity, right? Like, what the fuck is this going to be? What's it going to look like? What is the company even going to be coming after this? Like, I think the Raw after this show is maybe the most excited I ever was for a Raw in my entire life.
And it delivered.
Yeah.
And on commentary for the final time, Jim Ross and Paul Heyman.
Who are on fire tonight.
This is
everything about this show that works is these two. Because they are constantly tearing each other down throughout every segment.
On Heat, just incredible. Lance Storm and Raven defeated Albert, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Spike Dudley in 5 minutes and 20 seconds.
That's the invasion. That's the invasion you always dreamed of, buddy.
That is actually three ECW guys on a team, so I'll allow it.
It is the only match.
The Impact
on
Players
this
and
show
Raven.
Yes, this is the only match on this show where the people are on the side that they're supposed to be on.
The opening promo uses "The End Is Here" over highlights of the history of the WWF. Tonight could be the end. I think this would have been better if they showed WCW highlights too, to emphasize that one of these great organizations will meet its end tonight.
Yeah, instead it's 100% about WWE might die. Nobody gives a because to them, WCW has already died, and it's just the Alliance now.
JR and Heyman welcome us to the show, with Heyman saying this will be the last ever pay-per-view presented by the World Wrestling Federation.
Which, ironically, it is one of the last ones because it will become World Wrestling Entertainment not too long after.
Opening match for the European Championship. Christian defends against Al Snow. Christian won the European title on a house show on October 30th in Cincinnati. For the life of me, I can't think of who he won it from. Matt Hardy, maybe?
Yeah, I think Matt still had it. Guys, this might be the all-time, what the fuck is this match doing on this show in the history of wrestling?
This was set up on Heat. Snow had just returned from filming Tough Enough. Now, he gets a really good reaction because I think my memory is he comes off really well on Tough Enough. Like, I think he comes off as like a really strict, but like a really strict, hard-ass coach who like cares about the wrestlers.
Yeah. He was actually getting like some really big popularity. He could have coasted off of that for the rest of his career. Instead, he chose to be a weirdo towards the end. But Like, it was really a big thing for Snow. I don't even mind him being on this show necessarily, but this particular match, this should be one of the biggest wrestling events in the history of wrestling. Why do you have to cram matches in that you put together on Heat? Why?
Yeah. No, I don't think there was any need for this to be on this show. These are two good wrestlers, and the crowd is at least kind of into the match. I mean, as the advantage, at least it goes on first. That helps.
I did notice that he has the same fake music that Maven has, so he's clearly coming out to the Tough Enough theme here.
Music, which how can you not be over coming out to the Tough Enough theme?
If we came out to it tomorrow, we'd be big stars.
God, I love that great opening riff.
Oh yeah.
5 minutes in, Snow hits the snow plow, but Christian gets a foot on the ropes to break up the pin, and then Christian hits the unprettier and gets the win. Yeah, crowd was more into it than you would expect given the lack of an issue here. But hey, you always have a story. You're fighting for a championship. You're fighting for pride and glory.
I don't see why they couldn't have unified another belt here, right?
Well, they never brought the TV title over. There are what other belts are there to unify?
I feel like there should be nothing that anyone's wrestling for on this show except the ability to keep your job at the end of the night.
This is a good point. The champions all get to keep their jobs, so Snow is fighting to try to keep it. He's guaranteed to keep his job if he wins.
That's fair. So explain the next match, which does not in any way have that.
Nope. Well, first there's backstage segments because we can't have too many backstage segments on these shows.
There's at least 100 tonight.
Oh, God. We see Austin and Deborah walk into the Alliance locker room. His team demands to know why he hasn't been returning their calls. Stephanie asks if he's with them or if he's leaving for the WWF, and Austin denies that he's leaving.
They say, Austin, why haven't you been returning our calls? And without skipping a beat, Austin just says, I didn't want to.
That's me whenever anyone calls me.
Hell yeah.
Then Vince and Linda talk backstage. Vince says she can't both be worried about the WWF and Shane's safety at the same time. Vince said shit happens and that she needs to be prepared for whatever will happen tonight. Cole asked for their thoughts since tonight could be the last night the WWF is in business. Vince says he made it to where he is by taking calculated risks, and he has an ace in the hole tonight because one of the Alliance guys is actually with him. And then Regal shows up and talks some shit to him. This is, I guess, to set up the Kiss My Ass segment the next night.
The Regal promo, this is one of those rare times where they just let Regal off the chain and he just goes hard on somebody. Yeah. And you're like, oh shit, Regal's awesome.
As we mentioned before, Xbox is our sponsor tonight. The Xbox was about to release. I lost my shit the first time I played Halo. It was the greatest video game I'd ever seen.
Yep. And then which was followed by Halo 2, which was the greatest video game I'd ever seen. And then Halo 3, which is the greatest video game I'd ever seen. And then that was the end of that line of succession.
Regal versus Tajiri is next. It's a 3-minute match before Regal wins it with a Tiger Bomb. No reason for this to be on the show. After the match, he gets to beat up Tori, too.
So I don't remember if we said it yet, but originally this was supposed to be X-Pac in this role to unify the Cruiserweight and Light Heavyweight belts.
Yeah, I think he's just gone MIA. Yeah, they had multiple points. They'd had double champions, but they never unified them. So after this, they just adopt the Cruiserweight title as the WWF Cruiserweight title, but they keep using the WCW belt for a while.
So I think he's hurt, or he gets hurt somewhere around here, or something like that. And when they bring him back on the house shows later this year, apparently they are announcing him as the light heavyweight champion, and he has the belt, but it never makes it to TV, and then he's just gone.
Yeah. Backstage, Test lectures a woman on how to rub oil on him. And then Stacy shows up and Test asks her to come out with him tonight after the show, and she seems interested. That's a shoot, brother. Test must have gotten so much heat for all these women he scored with. Then Coachman interviews Edge, who mocks Test for being broken up with by so many women. And then he does a pretty good Test impersonation with the Bucky Beaver teeth. All right, next up, to unify the U.S. and Intercontinental titles, we've got Test versus Edge. Yes, the match I always dreamed about when I was fantasizing about WWF versus WCW.
And I got to tell you, the lead into this that they show in the video was like a kaleidoscope nightmare of title changes. Like at one point, Test has the tag titles and he has the U.S. title or the Intercontinental. Like everybody's got 6 titles and they switched them all over the course of 1 month.
Yeah, so Edge came out of No Mercy with the Intercontinental title. I think he lost it to Test, and then he beat Kurt Angle for the U.S. title. Can't think of who Kurt beat for the U.S. title off the top of my head.
Wasn't it Rhino?
Yeah, probably. That sounds right.
I guess.
So we got a battle of the 2 young athletic Canadian studs here. It's a surprisingly good match, but Test has kind of been on a heater this season. I feel like he's sort of our sneaky MVP.
I had always thought of this as being like a really good match, and upon rewatching it, it was. But it was even crazier because I just learned today that Edge was concussed this whole day. Like he got concussed while they were trying out the finish before the show started. So literally, Test led this great match. That's an unbelievable carry job for somebody we thought was ass not too long ago.
Edge reversed a bunch of Test's signature moves. He hit him with the spear, and I was sure that was the finish, but Test kicked out, and then Edge won with a roll-up instead.
When Test hit the spear, I was like, oh, Test should do the spear, because that thing looked incredible.
Backstage, Stephanie and Kurt talk. Stephanie is worried about tonight, and Kurt tries to calm her down. That's not the only thing he wants to do.
It's actually super funny because they have all this history, like whenever they have segments like this together, but also like knowing that Kurt is going to betray her as she cuts one of the great heel promos of all time, being like, if I lose, I'm going to become a regular person. I'll have to do my own grocery shopping and clean toilets. So much heat. I love it.
Then Lita and Jeff talk. Lita says Matt's been acting weird. Yeah, stuff keeps happening that makes him super horny.
I do love that this is one of the few heel turns I can put my finger on where horniness really leads him to the dark side. This and Dominic Mysterio are the only 2 that come to mind.
Dude, it's hard to blame Dom. Like, got all these women just throwing themselves at him.
I'll always remember that. I always remember that first time that Rhea like locks her legs around him in the ring post while the rest of the Judgment Day are beating up Ray, and I remember thinking like, no, I get it. No, it's fine.
So then we've got the tag title unification match with the Hardys and the Dudleys. The Dudleys are the WWF tag champions. The Hardys are the WCW tag champions. Undertaker and Kane had unified these things. I forgot to mention, there was a Raw where the Alliance lost 4 titles.
Yep.
Like, just job them out.
So they're like making an effort here to make them look like they're actually credible in some way. They win the first 3 out of 4 matches on this show, but like, come on. They don't have any credibility.
So Matt got his front teeth knocked out here when Bubba ran him into the cage. They were worried he had nerve damage.
Jesus, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Bubba tells Stacy to get the table. Nick Patrick tries to stop her from opening the cage door, so Stacy pulls up her skirt to show off her ass, and then he lets her take the key. Scumbag.
Naturally. Like, that's just, he's a horny man.
Nick Patrick does. Somehow he gets a job after this. They never really explained why on earth he would be hired to the WWF after all this.
There is no rhyme or reason to who they keep and who they don't keep based on storyline, because it's not based on storyline at all, obviously. But all of the people who are high key figures in screwing over WWE all also get jobs.
Matt manages to climb out of the cage and escape, so he leaves Jeff alone against both Bubba and Devon.
Bad idea.
Incredibly, Jeff manages to get away and climb up the cage, but rather than climb out, he goes for a swanton bomb off the cage on Devon and crashes and burns through a table, and Bubba pins him and the Dudleys win.
First of all, this is probably one of the stiffest spots he ever took in his career because, like, that thing is probably higher up than the tall ladder is.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just crashing and burning. I also don't love this element of Jeff's character where they're like, oh, he can't resist doing horrifically dangerous things.
Both the Hardys have urges they can't control.
That is a good point. They're both perverts in their own way.
Yeah. Bully is at WWF New York. He says he's there because Vince sent him there.
This is where he drops the line, the commissionership doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, like, I'm not even at the pay-per-view.
Sheesh.
Then they showed Test beating up Scotty and taking his spot in the Immunity Battle Royal. Hilariously, this will happen to Test at the Royal Rumble in 2004 when Mick Foley beats him up and steals his spot.
I can't imagine anybody realized that was a callback, but I hope somebody did because that's amazing.
And then we get the Immunity Battle Royal. Are you ready for this list of participants?
Yeah, let's take a tour through this group of weirdos.
Bradshaw. The leader of the Nation of Domination, Farouk. Lance Storm. Billy Kidman. Diamond Dallas Page. Albert. Taz. Perry Saturn. Raven. Chuck Palumbo. Crash Holly, Just Incredible, Planet Sean Stasiak, Stevie Richards, Tommy Dreamer, The Hurricane, Gregory Helms, Spike Dudley, Hugh Morris, Chavo Guerrero, and SmackDown's #1 announcer, Funaki.
Now, Hugh Morris and Chavo Guerrero have been fired from the Alliance, so they're free agents.
Yes. They run in after the match has already started.
Are they part of the match? Why are they entered into the match? Who got them the invite?
Taz does that too. Were these people all just late? Did they just forget to go out?
So Taz wasn't fired from the Alliance. I think he is officially unaffiliated.
Yeah,
so
he choked out Heyman on SmackDown, so I think that was his exit from ECW.
But when Morris and Guerrero are fired from the Alliance, it's not like they're hired by WWE. Who's letting them be here? They're just civilians at this point.
And Chuck Palumbo was fired from the Alliance at some point. I do not remember that.
Yes, the Billy and Chuck tag team has already begun, though they are not yet gay stereotypes.
Sean Stasiak got eliminated before the bell rang to start the match. That was pretty funny.
I can't believe they got rid of him.
Oh my God. They had so much. There was so much mileage they could have kept getting out of this character.
This is so fucking funny every single time it happens.
Like him, you could have him accidentally run out into traffic and get hit by a car. Him charge somebody on a bridge and fall over the railing into the river. There's so many things you could do with this.
This is just R-Truth's gimmick.
Yeah,
and R-Truth made 20 years out of this.
Comes down to Test and Billy Gunn. Test knocks Gunn over the top with a big boot with stank on it to win.
I love this way of pushing Test where he barely loses to Edge, but wins this anyway. So now it's even better than being a champion because now he literally cannot be fired by either side.
So what does he do with his immunity? He becomes a sex pest.
He quite literally starts stalking and attempting to sexually assault every woman on the roster, which it just pisses me off so bad because seems like such a nice guy. And they really start to have something with him here. He is actually hitting the hot streak. He's finally good in the ring. He's ready to go. And they saddled him with this bullshit.
Feels like roster split was made for him.
Yeah. That's really what happens with this Alliance thing is some guys start shining with more TV time, but when they recompress the rosters, all those guys go away.
Backstage, Booker T and Shane talk about whether they can trust Austin. And then we get a 6-pack challenge to crown a new women's champion. We've got 3 Alliance women and 3 WWF women. We've got Ivory, Jacqueline, Jazz, Lita, Mighty Molly, and Trish. This is Jazz's main roster debut, I believe.
It is, because this was originally supposed to be somebody else, and I'm totally blanking on who it was.
They didn't have a lot of other women. I think they still had Perry at this point. They could have put Stacy, or they could have put Stacy in here. Tori.
God, I don't know why I'm blanking on who it was. But so Jazz has never been seen before, but she was in ECW, so they were probably going to call her up anyway. In fact, we were talking about this when we were like fantasy booking the invasion at the beginning of this. Like, they had Jazz the whole time. But they do this thing where she comes out last, and they like make this big deal about it. Like, who's the 6th woman going to be? Who is it? Who is it? She comes out to the most profound silence imaginable, because of course nobody knows who she is.
So this is to crown a new women's champion. The title's been vacant since China left back in the spring. They just haven't bothered with it.
What is it that you think made them restart it here? Because like Trish isn't ready.
No, nothing jumps out at me. Just kind of like they're going to have the roster split and they want to make sure they have a women's division on one of the shows.
I guess. Like, this is a better women's division than I thought that they had at this point, though I don't think Ivory and Jacqueline are wrestling for much longer.
No. Less than 5 minutes, Trish pins... I wrote down she pinned Jacqueline, but I'm not sure that's right.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah. Pins somebody with a bulldog and gets the win. Good.
Everybody gets to look
really nice pop.
Yeah, everybody gets to look pretty strong here. Trish gets a nice pop. This is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Vince gives the locker room speech about the history of the WWF. He name drops Buddy Rogers, Jerry Graham, High Chief Peter Maivia, Andre the Giant, and Gorilla Monsoon. He has to walk kind of a weird line here where I don't think he can give too good of a speech because they need him to be a heel coming out of this.
That's the thing, is that, like, I wish he had just for one night been able to give a genuinely inspirational speech about, like, this is what this company means to me. But the Mr. McMahon character is never allowed to be earnest in any way.
No, this could have been great if he's like, you know, I sunk my whole life into this. I bet on all of you, and you made me a billionaire. You're the reason, you know, we fought our way back. You're the reason we put WCW out of business, and you're going to be the reason we beat them tonight. The WWF will live on because I know you won't let it die.
Go up to each one of them, be like, Undertaker, you've been my trusted friend and confidant for so many years. I trust you with my life. Big Show, you were a horrible failure.
And Big Show, you were here too.
But like, you have a chance to redeem yourself tonight and prove yourself to me.
I know
Jericho,
you can awaken the sleeping giant inside of you. That's why I signed you. Jericho, you started, you know, you were the guy who jumped and turned the momentum back to us when we needed it.
remember when I saved you from that shithole that never took you seriously?
I knew you could be a champion.
Rock, you were born for this moment. Literally born for this exact moment.
But it's built on the back of your family.
Yeah, man. I wish he could have done that. That's not what happens. Instead, he's just like, you guys all fucking suck, but you better win.
Then we see the Alliance team head into the ring. They look super cool coming towards the ring together, actually.
You want to talk about bad blunt rotations? This is a great blunt rotation. This is a great group of dudes.
Steve Austin, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Shane McMahon, and Kurt. Oh my God, I could hang with these guys.
What a fucking good time you'd have hanging out with these guys.
No bad vibes here.
Meanwhile, the other team, I don't think you could pay me enough money to hang out with those guys.
Yeah. Survivor Series match time. It's time for the main event. It's the match the world has come to see. Team WWF versus Team Alliance. This is what the world has come to. And oh my God, is this long? This main event takes up a full hour of the show.
So I want to say this off the top. I was looking for like trivia for Stump Steve for this one, and somebody pointed out that the order they all enter in is the order they all get eliminated in,
No,
which is so funny.
that's crazy. I didn't notice that.
Yep.
There's 10 minutes of entrances here because every single guy has to get their own entrance, which is, that feels like it. Why can't they all just come out together? Too many
Yeah.
egos.
In the Battle Royal, they all came out, like all the Alliance guys
Well,
came out together and all the
those are-
WWE guys.
Bronies, but no, I think these guys should make their entrances together. The problem is, whose music are they going to come out to?
Well, that's
Who's
what I
the
was pointing
biggest
out.
star?
Because Team WCW came out to let the bodies hit the floor, because that's obviously their theme.
Yeah.
Whatever the WWE theme was obviously like covered over, but I think it was Click Click Boo.
Maybe, because I think that may have been like the theme for live events at this point.
This should have been a Limp Bizkit song, as they are the official
Yeah.
band of
I mean,
WWE.
whatever it was, like the crowd recognized it and popped for it.
Oh yeah.
Earl Hebner is the referee here. That's a huge advantage for the WWF that they get the referee. It feels like it should have been a big thing. Like this probably would have called for a special referee. I think Foley would have been perfect for this, actually.
Okay, so let's pretend for a moment that this pay-per-view was set up the way it was actually supposed to be. And like you would have a match on the card to determine who's going to be the referee, right?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That could have filled like the Christian versus Al Snow
Yeah.
place.
Foley's perfect though, because like he's a man of integrity, and I think you could have like you could believably have him call it down the middle, and you might know like he might turn. He doesn't get along with Vince. He was in WCW and ECW. We don't really know where his loyalties are. He loves Shane and Stephanie.
Mick turning heel to like because
Oh.
he's secretly always been like friends with Stephanie, and that weird
Yeah.
whole relationship would have been really interesting.
All right, we get going. After 13 minutes, Big Show takes everyone's finishers, and Shane pins him with the elbow drop. Get out of here, you big piece of shit.
Do you think that spot was originally for Vince? Because it would have been extremely funny if it had happened to Vince.
That happened on a number of Raws, I feel like, where he got hit with everybody's finishers.
But yeah, so Big Show literally makes it 5 minutes, takes 5 finishers, and then
Big
leaves.
stinky giant out of here. What a pathetic run he's had this season.
Literally, like, when's the last time before this that he does anything for real? Like,
did he win a match?
I just has he won a single match in 2001?
Since
I'm not sure
WrestleMania
yet.
2000, I don't know.
Yeah,
Since he beat The Rock that one time.
he's gonna be world champion like a year and a bit from now.
He's going to have about 5 more face and heel turns between now and then, too.
He's just got to put some pants on and get a buzz cut.
Yeah.
And he'll be there.
Then all the WWF guys hit Shane with their finishers and pin him 2 minutes later. So we're back to 4-on-4. They booked Shane so well here. He's just this annoying little shit who keeps breaking up pins.
So it probably was meant for Vince and Shane to go out first like this
Yeah.
because it makes a ton of sense.
It would have to be that way. Kane. I guess I'll talk about this here. Shane got heat with the boys the next night on Raw because he didn't sell that he had taken all these finishers, and he also refused to be like they wanted him to get dragged out like by security the way Stephanie did, and he refused to do it. He insisted he just like play it cool and shake Vince's hand and like be honorable in defeat.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Shane McMahon thinks that he's a big, cool star, and you guys have let him think he's a big, cool star. And so you can't be mad when he acts like he thinks he's a big, cool star.
Yeah, so
You
he
guys-
refuses to show ass, and then he's gone for like 2 years.
Did Shane McMahon ever show ass in any moment of his entire WWE career, aside from the time that Kane electrocuted his testicles?
I mean, he let the crowd chant Shane's a pussy at him.
I mean, he couldn't have stopped him.
He got called. He let The Rock call him a pussy.
I guess, you know what? Young Shane McMahon in the corporation showed ass all the time.
99 Shane was one of the great heels of all time. He was such a little shithead.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now he's superhero Shane.
Yeah, babyface Shane was a mistake. Kane is the next guy out. He gets pinned by Van Dam with a thrust kick off the top rope after 18 minutes. Kind of curious it was the kick and not the 5-star.
I mean, maybe it was a shoot because, like, God knows, maybe just cracked his larynx open.
RVD was wild with those kicks. He understandably had heat. 2 minutes later, Undertaker gets dropped with the stunner by Austin and pinned. Shockingly clean job for Undertaker.
Now, as much as we're not going to be super praiseful about this match, this is a genius way to set this up because now the two people on Team WWF who hate each other are the last two left, and they have to depend on each other.
They're in big trouble. So, yeah, we've got Rock and Jericho against Austin, Booker, Angle, and RVD. 2 minutes later, Rock catches Booker with a roll-up and pins him. Then 3 minutes after that, Jericho manages to hit Van Dam with the breakdown super awkwardly. He could not do this move for whatever reason.
The timing was just always off. And, like, he's not tall enough to be pushing down from the top. So he's just kind of waiting for them to fall down, and then he just kind of throws them a little. It sucks.
So we've got Austin and Angle against Rock and Jericho. Long time goes by here. 32 minutes into the match, Rock gets Angle in the sharpshooter, and Angle immediately taps out. So we're down to Rock and Jericho against Austin. Incredible run for Team WWF as they get 3 straight eliminations and swing the match back in their favor. Like, the win probability needle was going wild here.
I would imagine that, like, Heyman and Ross are smartened up to what the finish of this match is, though maybe they're not. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like in the WWF, they were always smartened up.
But Heyman does a classic Bobby Heenan thing where he's just like, Angle certainly tapped out pretty quickly. That was suspicious.
Yeah. Austin then catches Jericho with a schoolboy for the pin, so we're down to Rock and Jericho. Jericho, instead of leaving, hits Rock with the breakdown. I was surprised this went the way it did. I thought they would have done like a Rock Jericho miscommunication because the way they do this, it comes off like Jericho's switching sides.
Yes, like it doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason. The Rock doesn't do anything to earn this. Like, it's not like there's one tipping point where Jericho's finally like, I can't take anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore. I just want to kill The Rock. That doesn't happen. Like, the way this should have happened is, like, Jericho should have like gone for a tag and they pull Rock off the apron and there's no tag and he gets his ass whooped and pinned. So he blames The Rock. But no.
Undertaker comes out to yell at Jericho and tell him to get his ass backstage.
That was actually a great moment. So Jericho's walking in the back. He's like, no, let me go whoop his ass some more. And then Undertaker runs out and is like, get the fuck back there. And Jericho's like, okay, sorry, guy. Sorry,
Mr. Taker. Austin beats on Rock. He puts him in the sharpshooter. It's Survivor Series and Earl Hebner is the referee. I'm shocked they resisted having Nick Patrick run out at this point.
It is a good point because the sharpshooter is used so much in this match.
Yeah.
It's clear that they're trying to evoke something with that.
Rock gets out. Austin goes for the title belt, but Rock double legs him and puts him in the sharpshooter. Austin gets the ropes to break. Austin goes for a stunner. Rock reverses into his own stunner. Looks like he's got it won, but scumbag referee Nick Patrick pulls Hebner out of the ring to stop the count, and he gets in to take over as the ref. God, what a heel Nick Patrick was. One of the only people in the Alliance who actually got over.
I just was thinking, because you just mentioned it, if Nick Patrick had gone to do the screw job, but right before he did, Earl Hebner had like clubbed him in the back of the head, it would have gotten the biggest pop in wrestling history.
A great babyface moment, actually.
He gets his redemption.
Rock goes for a rock bottom, but Austin counters it with his own rock bottom. Patrick slides to make the count. He doesn't count fast because Nick Patrick is physically incapable of counting fast.
That is such a great through line that he
can't do it. His shoulder's too messed up.
Yeah, he totally could do it and help win, but he physically can't.
1, 2, no. Oh, come on, Nick. Hebner gets knocked down. Austin hits a stunner and has the pin, but there's no one to count. They gave Austin the visual win here.
That is so weird.
Yeah, well, he's turning babyface, and you gotta, it's politics. You gotta protect Austin.
Turning babyface. Jesus Christ.
Angle runs down, but whose side is he on?
It turns out he's on the Rock side.
Yeah, he hits Austin with the belt. Austin turns around into a rock bottom, and Rock gets the pin. There's a huge celebration as the WWF survives. JR is on fire taunting Heyman. He's just like, Paul, you're out of work again. Paul, you didn't win. It's over, Paul. You're out of here.
While Paul does this great
Yes.
facial expression of shock because
What?
he can't register what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
screwed
incredible.
you, Paul. It's over.
This is almost a great moment. That ending was a clusterfuck that didn't really need to be that way. It would have been so much better if Rock just beats Austin, which would have been fine. But of
Yeah.
course, Rock's never allowed to actually beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. But then the sickening moment of this happens. Because then out comes Vince, and then it
Yeah.
becomes all about Vince.
Does the big celebration where he takes his jacket off and throws it down. Hilariously, they cut to Stephanie backstage, and she's like on her knees in agony, wailing. This was great.
Yes. My God, can that woman sell? They cut
They
to
really.
Austin.
There's some more things I would have done here. I would have had the entire WWF team come out to celebrate. Like I would have had first the guys who were in the match come out to celebrate, and then all the rest of the locker room. And I would have had security like drag the Alliance, be like, okay, you guys got to go. You're out of here. And drag the Alliance guys out of the locker room.
Yeah, let it take like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, have some fun with it. Make them kick Jericho at too. Like,
Yeah.
have Jericho come out to
You
celebrate.
could do the Owen.
Everyone's
You
like,
could do the
"No."
Owen Hart spot.
Yeah, where he just comes out and glare. Yes, they should have put the Rock on their shoulders and everyone's celebrating, and
Yeah.
Rock just comes out and glares at Rock.
Yeah, that would
Oh,
be good.
that's so good.
All right. A wrap for this show. I don't know. Thumbs in the middle, I guess.
In terms of how they could have tried to salvage this and end it, this is probably the best they could have done. Like that main event works on a couple of levels, and that's better than it did at Invasion.
Yeah. Give them credit for that.
They got some stuff coming out of this. They got Jericho Rock. They got like a couple interesting things happening. Not what you would have expected to have, but at least they got something.
Let's talk about Raw the next night. An all-timer of a Raw.
One of the best.
They open up with Vince coming out. He brings out Paul Heyman, who is as smug as he has ever been, thinking he's going to get to keep his job. But then Vince announces he's fired. Heyman goes after JR, tries to like jump over the announce table to attack him, and JR whoops his ass.
Yeah.
Security drags Heyman out, and as he's being dragged out, Vince announces the return of Jerry the King Lawler, who comes out and gets to mock Heyman as they're dragging him out.
And comes out to an outrageous
God.
pop.
Just brilliant. I'm kind of shocked they brought Lawler back after all the shit you're going to bring back a guy who like made a quote unquote joke about Stephanie fucking Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah. But
Grim.
again, at the end of the day, Vince never cares about that shit.
No,
And
he
who
likes
else
bringing
was
back people who talk shit about him.
Yeah,
He
and
likes
who
it.
else is there? Like, who's going to replace Heyman?
That's a good point. Taz.
I guess.
I mean,
That's not
Taz ends up calling SmackDown.
But that's after another year of practice. I don't think he was
No,
ready
it's
for it
only a
yet.
few months after this.
I guess that's true.
I think it's only a few weeks after this, actually, because they've Lawler call SmackDown like this week and maybe for the couple weeks after that. But yeah, Taz takes over on SmackDown pretty soon. He's definitely calling it once they split the rosters.
Yeah, I didn't realize they started that till after the roster split, but maybe not.
Then they did the segment where Foley quit as commissioner. Notably, Vince didn't fire him, and they had Vince like show respect for him and thank him for his service to the company. It was a weird segment. Apparently, Vince wanted to give Foley a nice send-off because Like when you think about it, like almost every big WWF star in history had left on bad terms over the years.
It's
Bruno, Hogan, Savage, Brett, Shawn with his injury. They had really almost never been able to give a top star a good send-off.
So I mean, and he and Mick did have a very close relationship at one point. So it makes sense that he would want to try to do that.
Now, since Vince is turning heel, he should have healed off on Vince and made him kiss his ass.
Oh yeah, for sure. You would have thought that would be the whole point.
Then Regal kissed Vince's ass in order to keep his job. This
What are
is
your
the one
thoughts-
and only time this should have happened. This one was hilarious.
I was about to say, what are your thoughts on the Kiss My Ass Club?
It's very disturbing in hindsight, knowing some of. I think it would be a mistake to separate how Vince McMahon books himself on TV from the real him.
Yeah, he says that they're separate people, but it's very
Well,
clear that they're not.
I think he's playing out many of his sexual fantasies on TV over the years, and like the JR one is much more disturbing, where he's like got JR's hat and he's like cackling, and JR gets his face shoved all the way up Vince's ass. Whereas Regal, it's a pack, it's played for humor, it's funny.
And let's remember, most sexual assaulters don't do it because they're horny. It's for power.
And that's Vince, the power he has over his employees.
I will say that the eventual payoff to the Kiss My Ass Club with Rikishi.
That is pretty brilliant. But then they kept doing it.
Yeah, they kept doing it is the thing.
That definitely should have been the end of it. It's like, I really think this just should have been a one-time thing. The JR one is brilliant, where Undertaker's like, hey, you don't think you should have to kiss Vince's ass, right? And JR's like, hell no. And Undertaker's like, what, you think you're better than me, boy?
I've been kissing his ass for 10 years. You think you're better
You
than
think
me?
you can't even do it once? That's brilliant. And they don't. What I thought that should have made Undertaker really should have been Vince's stooge after that, but that is not the direction they go with it.
It's bizarre that they never really.
No, they never referenced that again, except the one time before WrestleMania 32 that Vince said Undertaker was his bitch.
Because as we've said a million times on this show, like Undertaker was a Pinkerton for Vince McMahon. That is his role in this company. That has been his identity for 40 years.
This would have been it would have been a really fun, interesting character if Undertaker is just like, I'm Vince's guy. Like, he's the man who led us to this. He made me a millionaire. I will always have his back.
Even especially if it's reluctant. Like babyface Undertaker bailing out Vince time and again, even though he doesn't want to. Like boy,
Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Yeah, boy, I don't want to beat your ass, but that's the man that gets me paid. That's the man that feeds my kids.
Kurt was established as a heel by being an asshole to everyone all night, and someone, I think it was Edge, suggested he was actually playing both sides, and he was just going to go with whoever was going to win. To be fair, he did come in and totally change the course of the match with his interference.
This is so insane because, as we said 2 months ago, he's the hottest thing in the fucking world. He's the star that they could build on after this whole thing. This one night tanks his whole fucking career because literally, like, he will never hit those heights again because they just bizarrely turn him. He went mole into the other company to help the WWE win. He should be a hero.
Yeah.
Instead, he's just like, oh, you're kind of annoying. Fuck you, Kurt.
Well, the thing is, Steve Austin and Jim Ross made the power play and got Austin turned back face, so there's no room for Kurt to be a face now.
And it's too late for that. Nobody cares.
So in the main event, Vince says he's going to strip Austin of the title and award it to Kurt. But then the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey begins to play, and Ric Flair returns to the WWF for the first time since 1993. Insane pop for Flair in his hometown of Charlotte. In retrospect, I'm furious that they waited until the invasion was over to buy out Flair's contract.
You know what, though?
This is insane.
Would it have just dragged him down to be part of that?
Yes, because the invasion sucked, but they should have tried harder.
Yeah. I honestly feel like they had him, like, probably in like October, and they were like, let's wait till this dumb
Yeah.
shit is over
By
before we
then,
bring
it
him
was
in.
too late. Like, they
Yeah.
should have gotten him in at the beginning. He should have been, I don't know if he should have been the owner instead of Shane, but it should have been like Shane makes him like the commissioner, and he's, you know, kind of the face of the alliance.
However, that would have cost us an all-time
This
segment
promo.
where he walks in, says like Shane and Stephanie.
Consortium. Remember when Shane and Stephanie sold their stock to the consortium? The consortium was me, Vince. Wow, we're partners. By God. That's why he does the strut in the middle of that. He's like, where does the strut? Partners.
The "we're partners" line with the strut is maybe my favorite Ric Flair moment of all time.
The consortium was me. Woo!
Which in effect means that he's owned half of WWE since May and just hasn't said a goddamn thing about it.
And then Austin comes out and he turns face by beating the shit out of Angle and Vince, and like him and Flair show respect for each other. Brilliant segment. Brilliant angle.
We have just effectively reset the world.
Take the etch and sketch. The past 6 months didn't happen.
Now, do you want to hear something that's going to make you furious?
What's that?
I knew who Ric Flair was.
Of course you did.
But only from watching my old WWE video cassettes.
Yeah,
I did not know anything except he was the guy.
You didn't know where he had been.
No idea. I was just like,
what's he been up to all these years?
he looks old.
I thought he looked pretty good here because I think he had just had a facelift. But I mean, he looked older than he did in '92.
That's the thing. I only knew him from the Royal Rumble '92.
Yeah. And
What a time.
That's it. That is the end of the invasion. I don't know. I love to be contrarian. I love to bust narratives. I feel like the conventional wisdom on this one is basically right. You know, they rushed it. They didn't have the big stars. They didn't let WCW get enough heat.
There's have you ever read All Quiet on the Western Front? I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. So it paints this vivid picture of like Germany, young soldiers as like the country's being emptied, and like one by one they all fall, and like until it feels like there's no one left defending the motherland, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, this felt like that in that each month that goes by, the credibility of any of this just starts to die and dissipate. It's like one by one, each person who may have been over gets ruined and ruined and ruined and ruined. But by the time you get to November, it's like you can't even remember what the Invasion pay-per-view was like. And that sucked. It was a terrible pay-per-view. But the excitement of that time is so gone that I actually remember loving this show, not because it was connected to that or a good payoff, just because like, oh, it's a pretty good pay-per-view, and this is just the new normal now.
Now, here's something really fascinating. Dave Meltzer would recall a conversation he had with Vince right after they bought WCW, where Vince referenced how Crockett fumbled the UWF acquisition back in like 87 or whenever that was, and how like he had learned from it and he knew they had to make WCW strong. They had to give WCW Raw. Like, it's fascinating that Vince seemed to understood what he needed to do, but I think Kevin Dunn might be our villain here, that Kevin Dunn talked him out of it.
That is fast. I love hearing Vince talk about wrestling history, because so often it seems like he's just fully unaware of it, but you know that he's not.
No, the other one I can think of is when they got Big Show, Meltzer says Vince told him like, oh man, WCW had no idea how to book a giant. We're not going to make all the mistakes they did with him. And they proceeded to book him even worse.
Yeah.
It's fascinating though, yeah, because you just think of Vince McMahon as like, he doesn't, I mean, it's a Jim Cornette narrative. Cornette has spread that. Like, oh, Vince has never watched any wrestling but his own. He doesn't know anything about wrestling history other than his own companies. It's like, that's not that actually true.
I think that's something he projects. I think there's a wrestling nerd in Vince. And actually, I almost wonder if those talks with Dave Meltzer bring that out of him a little bit. Just
Probably,
like
because he's
talking to
still
another
trying to
wrestling.
show off for Dave.
Yeah, just like talking to another wrestling nerd about wrestling, because
Also,
he so often has
so
to be Vince
fascinating to go back to a
McMahon.
time where Vince and Meltzer talked regularly.
I'm sure Vince enjoyed those talks, honestly,
Yeah.
before it all went down.
And I don't
But,
know
like-
when that happens. I don't know if it's after they buy WCW. He may just not have any more use for him.
I'd like to believe that there's a Vince McMahon in there somewhere that's not Mr. McMahon. And like it probably disappeared completely around this time. If indeed it ever existed. But it seemed like he was more of a human in the 90s. And by the 2000s, I don't even know what he is.
Yeah, you do wonder, did like the bulletproofness of vanquishing WCW, was that his final break? Or after that, he just felt like he was untouchable?
Or maybe it's just like when all the money comes in, the insulation between him and the outside world becomes so big. There's just so many people between him and any kind of other thought other than his own bubble. I don't know. But so there are some positive things that come out of this. And I want to leave us on a positive note here because that's sort of what we do on this show. Test really does make something of himself here. And it really is a bummer.
Was Test the MVP? I think
Test is the
MVP. Like,
MVP.
value over expected was the highest. I mean, Canyon tried to claim to be the Alliance MVP, but I think it was actually Test.
Okay, the actual MVP of this season is Kurt.
Yeah.
Because for those 2 magical months, Kurt Angle is the hottest babyface this company will have for God knows how long.
Yeah. The highlight, it was either WCW and ECW joining together. It was really the old Stone Cold return before Invasion had to be the highlight.
Just like the 3 weeks of television before the Invasion pay-per-view are probably the 3 best weeks of WWE television ever made.
Yeah, I think it's the best they ever did.
I would say that of the 20 best Raws ever, I would guess 6 of them happened during this season.
Yeah.
Like, if not more.
The problem is almost all the ones other than those are total garbage.
Yeah, and like I didn't say SmackDown because they're not even paying attention to SmackDown at this point.
I mean, there were a couple great SmackDowns. There were some great SmackDowns early on here because those where we got the really great Benoit Austin match and the TLC and the 4-way TLC.
Right. But like in the middle of this Invasion, SmackDown's just where they're dumping all this extra shit and all the actual storyline stuff happens on Raw.
I mean, I don't think we can ever overstate the role that SmackDown played in screwing this company up. It just burned out the creative. Everybody got overexposed. It was too much for a lot of people to keep up with.
Coming out of this story, out of this whole thing, we've broken up every single tag team in the entire company. We have all these new unified titles, but like if you put a gun to my head, even though we just talked about it, I couldn't tell you who the champions were. They've devalued every belt. They've destroyed every institution, and we have to start from scratch. The Attitude Era isn't just over. It's been reduced to ashes.
All right. A wrap on this Invasion season. It was a slog, but I still enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Let's do Twitter questions.
All right.
Good, the bad, and the nerdy asks, since Flair is about to start the next day, why blow off the Invasion story? Having Flair take over the Alliance would fix a lot of the problems. I disagree. This was dead. New leadership was not going to fix this at this point.
Again, if this is just a heel stable and not WCW or ECW or whatever, and you want to kick half of these dudes out and just make a strong heel stable, okay, Flair can be in charge of that. But like, there's nothing about this that's going to be fixed just by introducing Ric Flair into it.
We've talked before about the idea of what if the NWO showed up and kicked everybody's asses at Survivor Series. That might have been the best thing they actually could have done.
If at the end of Team WWF versus Team Alliance, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall had come out and whooped everybody's ass, and there had been no winner, that is the coolest imaginable way that could have ended.
AJ Jones asks, if you took RVD out of the main event to give him his own singles match for the hardcore title again, whom would you choose as his opponent? RVD Edge would be cool.
They had done that on TV like 2 weeks before.
Yeah, they had. Anybody else here I would have wanted to see RVD wrestle?
Christ, where are all the cool people who were in this company like
I
5
know.
minutes
Remember
ago?
how awesome this company used to be? The problem is when you do a 5-on-5 match in the main event, there's just not a lot of other people available.
I would take Big Show and RVD out of the main event and put Edge and Test in it. If I'm being honest with you.
Test.
What fucking Test in the main event? That's where he belongs, man. And
What
then
about
I would have
Jerry Lynn.
Yeah, I would have RVD face Lance Storm. Let's do it.
All right, that's it. What have we got next of our 50 recurring segments?
Stump Steve is next.
Okay.
Okay, so of the 48 wrestlers on this show, and I picked this specifically to illustrate just how far we had fallen since the beginning of the invasion. Only 12 of them made their debut within the invasion angle as invaders. 12.
Oh, okay.
So, of all the people who should have been on the other side competing against WWE, only 12 of them are actually people who showed up as part of the invasion. Can you name those 12 individuals?
Okay. Booker T.
Yep.
Does RVD count even though he was in the WWF in 97?
Yeah, he still counts.
Okay. Jazz making her debut tonight.
Yep. I am
not a
not
whole lot
counting-
of other people here. Is the heat match count?
Well, the heat match guys were also in the Battle Royal, so sure.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Okay. The Battle Royal, Storm,
Uh-huh.
Kidman,
Uh-huh.
DDP,
Yep.
Palumbo,
Mm-hmm.
Stasiak,
Gotta have Planet Stasiak.
Dreamer,
Dreamer.
Hurricane,
Hurricane.
Morris,
Uh-huh. One more.
Chavo.
Javo, you got him.
Okay.
So,
That's
That means
really
it was
it. 12
Booker
out of 48 were actual invaders.
Booker and Rob, Jazz, who debuts tonight, and all 9 of the others were in the
Jabronis.
Battle Royal.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about this whole time. No, like barely any of these matches are WWF versus WCW. There's some ECW sprinkled in there.
Yeah, if you take ECW out of that and it's just WCW,
It does.
it's just DDP,
Booker.
Storm, Kidman, Hurricane, Chavo, Hugh, Stasiak, Palumbo, and
And
Booker.
the only one who plays any significant role is Booker.
And Booker gets jobbed for Booker is the opposite of an MVP for this season because I've never seen a major star get jobbed the way he did these past several months. Like he gets humiliated like month after month after month.
All right, have we got a forum feud?
I don't think we're gonna let's skip forum feud today.
The show's been long.
Yeah, we've exhausted it a little bit for the invasion, but we're gonna come back hot with one next week. What are we doing next week, Steve?
All right. I don't think we're going to negotiate here. I said the most wonderful words in the English language from your
Howdy,
perspective. Do you want to do a New Japan show? And I selected Dominion 2019.
Do you want to do a New Japan? Oh, yes,
course
I
you
very
do.
much do. So this is actually the beginning of a new thing that we're going to try to do. So obviously every year we cover the Wrestle Kingdom from like 5 years ago or whatever that one was. And so we're going to try to do the major New Japan shows in between from that year to kind of tell the story across the course of the year.
It's very stupid that we weren't doing this all along now that I think about it.
Well, I couldn't make you do more than one New Japan show up until literally this point. So here we are.
Yeah. So Dominion 2019 features Okada, who's the IWGP champion for reasons we'll have to explain when we do the show, defending against Chris Jericho.
Yeah, it is. The Pain Maker.
Yeah, the Rainmaker versus the Painmaker.
Oh man, this is such a good show too. Like that's not as good as the Omega match is, though. Of course, like it's not surprising that is the case. But there's also like a really amazing was it Naito versus Jay White on this show? No, Naito versus Kota Ibushi.
Naito versus Ibushi. Isn't this the match with that horrifying German suplex on the apron?
We call it the neck death match. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, we have
Ospreay versus Dragon Lee
for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The Guerrillas of
Moxley
Destiny
versus Shota.
Yes, this is when Shota's still a young boy, and this is Moxley taking him under his wing.
This is just like his relationship with Wheeler Yuta.
Quite literally. That's where they got the idea for that whole thing.
Different Japanese guy.
This is before Jushin Liger's gone, so we get a little bit of Jushin Liger, Minoru Suzuki. We get Bullet Club Jay White in a weird 6-man.
Yeah, this will be a fun one.
And we'll get to begin telling the story of the most dramatic year and a half in all of New Japan history, which is what is about to begin.
The biggest Tokyo Dome show, a 2-night Tokyo Dome show where they draw like 80,000 across the 2 nights.
Yep, we're building to the peak and the death of modern New Japan.
Immediate death as COVID breaks out.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll have all that and more next time on the Lawcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time.